Duke, you suck.
You shut your mouth!
Welcome to the Duke You Suck podcast. And now, Duke Durango.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Duke You Suck podcast. I'm here with return guest Johnny Devine. Welcome back, brother. Congratulations on the opening of the Strong. What do we got? The Canadian Strong Style Wrestling Academy.
Yeah.
Congratulations, man. That's dynamite.
Thank you. Well, I mean, other people have been paying me to run their schools for a few years. I might as well open my own at this point, and I think it's probably the perfect timing. So
I would agree. I mean, I don't honestly know if there's anything. I know Can-Am's got a school going.
Yeah.
And no disrespect to anybody there, but I think, locally you're probably the most qualified guy to be running a school. I don't want to piss on anybody, right? But that's honestly how I feel. And I'm not going to bullshit you.
No. And like with Lance shutting his doors, that is the truth.
Yeah.
And it's not exactly a debate about it. It's the truth. That being said, I mean, there are other schools, but they are definitely not teaching the same things that I do.
No. And that's, it's one thing that, excuse me, that's always kind of set you apart is that you've always had a unique style. You've always kind of liked to, I can honestly remember having a conversation with Vinny in the dungeon about because you would question everything we were being told about psychology, not everything, but a lot of it, because you just had a different mentality. You wanted to work it from a different angle or see it from a different angle. And I think that's a really important thing when you're teaching kids how to work.
Well, it's invaluable because there are so many, like what a lot of people might not understand about our business is it attracts those with learning disabilities.
Right.
So I have dyslexia and had issues learning stuff and have always seen the side angles easier than I would see the straight on angles for most things.
Right.
And everybody's got their weird little idiosyncrasies. So like when you're teaching kids nowadays, like there has to be 101 ways to skin a cat because not everybody's going to get with 2 + 2 is 4 anymore, as there are, there's new math.
Well, now, you're going to need to give, some kids get 2 + 2. Some kids are going to need 1 + 3, right? Like
exactly. And that's it. Exactly. So there's always got to be another way to take on the equation. And to me, the traveling that I've done and the places that I've been, and then that's coast to coast, both US and Canada, north, south, I've seen all the good schools and I've seen a lot of the bad schools.
Right. And
I see what they're teaching and I see what's not getting taught. So I can see where the puzzle pieces are missing, and I can see where the basics have been skipped to get to the good part, as they call it, and the bumping and the high spots and the blah. Right. So believing in your product is the first step for any good wrestler, really. And that comes down to fundamentals and basics. And we had probably, like I tell this to people, and I'm sure you'll back me up on it, but when I say I went to wrestling school, I went to Harvard. They're like, I didn't go to Shecky's Midnight Wrestling down the road. I didn't get a backyard certificate for ring setup. I went to the dungeon. So there's,
there's a different pedigree there, right? Like, and there's, like I watched the way some guys get trained and some kids get taught to work. And I mean, there's only so much you can do to train a guy, and I 100% appreciate that. But I mean, when we were coming up, Bruce Hart would book himself, and I honestly don't remember if he did this for your matches, but he would probably, because I was so shitty, he had to do it for me. But he would book himself as the guest referee in my matches, and then he'd tell me exactly what to do and when to do it. And it was, he'd help me fill in the blanks.
Right.
He'd let us call the whole match, but as he was reffing, he'd tell me okay, fill it in with this, fill it in with that.
Yeah.
And so
get teed here, do this now.
Yeah, 100%. And I don't think guys get trained like that anymore.
No,
like it's,
no.
you know, I've heard people like, oh man, you know, I've heard people shit on Bruce, you know, put me over in one breath and shit on Bruce in the next. It's like, well, if you think I'm worth, you know, half a pound of shit, it all came from one or two guys, and I'd be him and Ross, you know?
Right.
And not to mention TJ and Harry and Teddy and those guys sure taught us a lot too, but.
Absolutely. And that there was like anything, it's a melting pot of influences, because you had Davey, you had Jim, you had Stu, right? Yeah. So you had numerous influences coming through the door and people and minds to learn from. The problem is people in Regina, people in Winnipeg, people in Thunder Bay, people in Sault Ste. Marie are learning from people who never got that instruction.
Right.
So it's now what they call the blind leading the blind, is as if there are 100 moves, but you've only been shown 20 of them. And now you're teaching those 20 moves to people. Are you teaching them correctly? And for what purpose do they now have those 20 moves? And what about the other 80? Where are they going to pick those up?
Yeah.
So,
well, and oftentimes my question, especially, like, you know, we were fortunate to, you know, come up with a traveling touring company when we broke in. So we had a lot of experience working twice a night for a really, you know, for years, really. So you hear these guys now and they'll say, well, I've been in a business, you know, 5 years and I should open a wrestling school. And then you get talk to them and realize they've, you know, those years they had, you know, 12 matches, you know, and let's go crazy and say 24 matches, you know, they had 125 matches in those. And that, I don't want to minimize that, but I don't want to also put the
maximize it. Like that's, you
should probably maximize school just yet.
And that's it. Like there's a lot of people who have been convinced that because it's an available market that they should do this for a business and open a school. But what they don't understand is that everybody who comes through their doors, and this is, I'm generalizing here because there are the good schools.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
There's a lot of them.
Yeah.
There's a lot of them, but they are way outnumbered by the bad schools. And the bad schools, like, all you're doing is taking kids' money and making it harder for them to get to the next step. And one of the things, like, and this is what I've seen kind of here with Calgary right now, is like, for example, you had Ali's school, which was
is that closed now?
No, it's been picked up by Chris Knight, from what I understand.
Okay.
But the advertising and marketing is directly telling people that they'll go to WWE and they'll get them in WWE. Yes. And here are WWE trainers, and it's a blatant lie.
Yeah, 100%. You know?
And the problem is there's no adjudication / ability to self-regulate people lying about the business, you know, promoters lying about shows. Like,
well, it's already hard enough, man. You know what I mean? Like, wrestling's already been painted as a carny act by a lot of people. So when you're looking for credibility and you do have some of these guys, you know, besmirching the good name of the business, it makes it harder for everybody else to be credible.
And that's it, right? And they don't get it. They don't see it as that. They see it as, well, I deserve the right to be able to run my business the way I see it. And it's like, no, you didn't earn the right to run that business because you know nothing about that business. Yeah. You simply bought the required equipment and have called yourself a promoter or called yourself a trainer or a booker or a worker or, you know, whatever. And you can call people out on it all day long, but the problem is that there's no true regulation. So they just pop back up under another name.
And oftentimes the kids go in there, don't know any better. They don't know any different, right? So it's, you know, there almost needs to be sort of, I mean, yeah, we can Google it and, you know, kind of find good and bad in different reviews on a lot of schools, but it really would be nice to have some sort of fucking regulation here that, you know.
Well, that's actually something I'm pushing towards, is as a not necessarily unified, but a group of federated trainers, like guys that I know from other places who run quality schools, where we can be like, okay, like, let's put these seals of approval on these places, at least these places. You can say, okay, these guys know that this school is good. That guy knows that school
at least somebody's vouching for you.
Yeah. And I mean, like, you know, there's only so many places to go per city. But if every city has 3 or 4 schools and no true way to know where to go, what to do, every kid's like, out of 20 kids, 10 of them are going to believe the hype and listen to what's going on. And 10 of them are going to do good research and figure out that they need to go to a certain place that suits them. That's another thing too, is there's like schools that suit people and schools that don't suit people. No, I'm not talking about anything like discriminatory or anything like that based on race, gender, or anything, period. I'm just talking about styles. Like some people want to go learn lucha libre and high flying and how to wear masks and do all of that. Some people want to go to Japan and learn their strong style. Some people want to go to Britain and learn the British technical and stuff like that. So if you can find the place that has your style that you lean towards to train at, that's always super beneficial as well. And I mean, there's not a lot of places that can teach multiple styles.
Well, and I was going to say that's one area I'll definitely put you over, is that you could always do the high flying, you could brawl if you wanted to, you could wrestle hold for hold with anybody else, as well as with quality psychology, and draw as much heat with the crowd as with your body language and mouth as you did with your actual wrestling. So, and that's, I can't necessarily say that for everybody that I know that's open in a school, right? It sounds rough and it sounds like we're kind of being dickish, but I'm remiss to put my name on things, to be honest with you.
That's like 100%.
Yeah. I mean, and again, you and I haven't always seen eye to eye, but that doesn't matter because I know where your heart is for the business. And I know that I definitely don't know too many more people that are more passionate about the business. And I know that if they go, to Johnny Devine's, Canadian School of Strong Style Wrestling Academy, that's a fucking mouthful. They're going to get trained the right way.
Well, at the very least, they're going to have great fundamentals.
Yeah.
That's the thing that I drive home, and the difference that I tell people, like, because essentially if somebody asks you in the street, like, okay, well, what's the difference between your school and somebody else's? You got to give a 1-sentence answer.
Yeah.
Right. And so my sentence is, I can teach the things that other people can't because I've done the things that other people haven't.
Yeah. And that's fair, man. Yeah. Right? You can at least, I mean, here's the thing is, you and I came from the same school. We did a lot of the same things, but then there was another level of success that you reached that I didn't. And we can say, people might debate whether that makes us one good or one better, but the difference is you had a path and you can help use that experience to teach people that path to success, right? Like that's an important thing.
I can also teach them what not to do, because one of my big things is don't do what Johnny Don't does.
Yeah.
Johnny Don't do that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Too late.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so,
hey man, we all got a couple of those on our resume.
Well, like the thing that I absolutely love about teaching is helping people skip the hard steps, or at the very least see the hard steps coming and already having them be prepared for them. Right. Sure. So my favorite example is Josh Alexander, who is currently the Impact X Division champion. Josh broke his neck and had given up at a point, and like it was a fracture, and it's one of those things where doctors will always err on the side of caution and tell you should never ever do this again.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well,
doctor said
that might work for some people, but a lot of us like can't take that advice when it's our life. Like so you being going as far back with me as anybody will remember the year that I lost the use of my arm.
I do remember this.
Okay. And so like I severed nerves in my neck. It was dead. 3 doctors, you'll never lift your arm again. Here's your handicap parking pass. That lesson taught me more about myself, life, and how life works than any other lesson that I've had since. And that includes stabbing and dying. And that lesson is doctors aren't always correct. They guess on a lot of stuff. Okay. And so they might tell you you'll never do this again. But lo and behold, with a little bit of work, diligence, and effort, you will.
How many of those stories have we heard, right? Really?
Well, and so you hear a lot of these inspirational things, but it's like it would be a lot less inspirational if doctors were just like, hey, maybe you need to put in some more work on this, and it's possible, right? And there'd be more hope, because the flip side of that is when they tell you that kind of stuff, the depression, the defeat,
well, your whole life gets taken away from you in a sentence.
Bro, like imagine, right?
Man, I was 9 years old and I had mono, and the doctor told me I couldn't finish the season of football, and I cried like a baby.
Okay.
Right. So I know it sounds ridiculous, but I'll never forget that feeling.
Okay. So now imagine you're training with Tokyo Joe. You're supposed to have an upcoming tour of Japan. You got your 4th WWE tryout, the one where the last one they said, we're going to hire you. It's just a matter of time. We just hired 100 guys. Come back on our next round.
Right.
Okay. Then have that taken away from you. Everything you worked your entire life for. Yoink. So that psychologically does more to every wrestler than anything else.
Yeah, 100%.
You get to the point, they yank the rug out from under you. What comes next?
Yeah.
And that lesson is the important one. It's the preparedness of having a proper backup plan. It's the preparedness of knowing how to fix your body, where to fix your body, and when to rely on proper medical reliance. Like all of us, you've been walking wounded and were for 10 years, I'm sure, at one point, or if it wasn't one thing, it was another.
Man, I just started taking elk velvet pills because I'm trying anything to be able to walk. Like I'm literally, I'm throwing darts, right? Like,
okay, I feel you. So like we as athletes must get to the next show. And that became part of my training program as well, as it's like, okay, body maintenance and the continued health of your joints, neck, back, knees, hips. These things need to be preserved. This is how you do that. Here is how to avoid filling your bump card or your bump jar before it needs to be full.
Right. Yeah. Good psychology can really elongate a career.
And those lessons. Right? And those lessons are the hardest for young guys to learn, right? Because they just want to do the high spot. They just want to teach me a shooting star press. Like, okay. And when you break your whatever, what are you going to do?
Yeah. What's next?
Well, I'm not going to do that. Well, this guy did it and that guy did it. So what makes you special? Yeah,
there's a laundry list of guys that said that'll never happen to me. Right.
Right.
Like it's one of the reasons, quite frankly, I stopped wrestling is I honestly, A, my phone was still somewhat ringing, and B, so I wanted to go out on my own terms. And I did not want a doctor or an injury telling me I couldn't wrestle anymore. Right. And I'm proud to say that I went out that way.
I feel you.
Right.
I feel you. And that's good for you.
Yeah.
That, like, I am in agreement that I certainly wouldn't want to go out medically.
Yeah.
And I will pick and choose when I decide to hang my boots up.
For sure, man.
But at the same time, like for a lot of young guys, like they sell on, or they buy into the dream, like, oh, I'm going to be famous. I'm going to fly the world. I'm going to do this. But 60 to 70% medically check out because they are unable to deal with the stresses that it puts on their body.
The grind, man. Like for us, it was a grind, I think, because most of us kept jobs. We'd work a full-time job, go wrestle in Lethbridge, drive home. Go wrestle in Medicine Hat, drive home. Then it'd be the weekend, so you could go to Saskatoon and Regina and go back to work. Go back to work Monday and do it all again starting Wednesday. And I mean, it's not like we were going through airports and having that type of a grind, but still, you're living out of a suitcase. You're always injured. You're always hungry. You're crushing cheeseburgers at 2 a.m. because that's what's open when you get back into town. Like
legit, man.
Yeah, she's a tough buck. Like, and that's the one I remember. That quote comes directly from BJ Annis. Former owner of BJ's gym, where generations of wrestlers lifted weights. And I remember him just telling the exact quote was, yeah, man, she's a tough buck, boys. Like
she is. It's
not
easy.
Any punches.
And if you can do anything to make that easier, well, then like do it, how?
Yeah.
Well,
and we didn't really have anybody to do that for us. You know what I mean? Like the Hearts trained us for sure. 100%, but we didn't have anybody you know, there was nobody opened my eyes until I remember sitting in the locker room with Jason Anderson, and the quote would be insulting to somebody, so I'm not going to repeat it. But it was one of those, he kind of made this statement that made me realize, like, I actually had no idea about the wrestling business. Like, I literally, and I'd been in for, you know, more than a couple of years. Well, probably no less than 3 for sure.
Yeah.
Right. And it was just like, oh shit. Like,
yeah, I remember that point too.
Yeah.
Because I started traveling early. Like I got out with Can-Am. I went over to Don Callis and
you bet.
Tony Condello to get to Winnipeg. And
you started working like top rope in that, right?
Yeah. And like, as soon as I started traveling, like my eyes were opened to a new world of like, okay, we're really missing pieces of the puzzle back in Calgary. Cause you know, like it's not like it was really truly being done better or something elsewhere. But for example, Don Callis was drawing 800 to 1,300 for the Winnipeg Convention Center. You know, 800 to 1,000 in Thunder Bay. Like, okay, something's different because this talent is no better than the talent that we have.
Right.
You know, they're bringing in me and Handsome and Juggernaut and Highlander and blah.
Yeah.
To round up
half the
cards.
roster of dungeon guys.
Right. Yeah. So like, you know, the questions that I was asking at that time and like the things that I was listening to, those became, okay, well, that's how you make that next step. And how do you get out of the pit or out of the geographical castration of Alberta and Western Canada?
It is Western Canada.
Yeah. So those are tough, like locks to pick, as it were, right? Because essentially guys lock themselves into an area and they can't figure out how to get to that next spot.
Well, and the other thing too is there's, you know, people don't realize how many unwritten rules there are in a locker room, you know, and it's, you know, I mean, you know, hats off to guys like Bob Johnson, and, you know, people can say whatever they want. I love Bob Johnson.
He did a great job as a
but people like Bob Johnson and Ellie Neidhart were instrumental in teaching me certain locker room etiquette that nobody else, like, you had no idea. And Bob Johnson taught me what kayfabe was. I walked into a locker room, there's a big line of people. Oh yeah. Big line of people. He starts giving me some shit about what I pulled last night in the last town. I literally looked at him like I'd seen like he had 2 heads. Bob, I have no idea what the hell you're even talking about. And I just walked into the locker room. It comes in the locker room. I'm like, Johnson, what are you talking about? Like, what did I do? And he's like, kayfabe, buddy, just working. And I was like, what's a kayfabe? Literally, you know what I mean? I was working shows and I didn't know what kayfabe was.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Bobby J is wonderful. I love Bob.
Right. Like, I mean, what a just genuinely nice man. Like,
just a wonderful guy. Yeah. You want to hear my favorite Big Bob story?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay. So Bob Johnson, absolutely fabulous road agent. When Billy and I were the ring crew, Bill loved to fuck with Bob just so much. It was like
Bill loved to fuck with everybody.
True, but but
especially Bob.
His passion, I think, was fucking with Bobby J. Anyway, so we the show in Lethbridge, and Billy and I are in the ring truck, and Bobby has booked hotel rooms, but he didn't get himself one. There wasn't enough rooms,
right?
So he had the room with us.
Oh shoot!
So he gets caught in there, and we had gone fucking out partying or whatever, and we didn't know Bob had fucking caught it in our room.
Oh no.
So we go to the bar and we come back. We picked up a couple of girls at the bar. And sorry guys. There wasn't enough room. So you got the big Bobowski with you here tonight.
The big Bobowski.
Okay. Like, oh God. So troopers that these girls are, they stay the night.
Right.
And we wake up in the morning and like one of the sights that are burned into my brain is Bob at this cot at the foot of my bed.
Oh no.
The blanket's half off and these horrible tidy whities with holes in them. Just
come on.
It's just a nightmare.
Yeah.
Bob, you gotta cover up, buddy.
I'd want danger pay for that.
And so sorry guys, covers himself up and I'm gonna go take a shower. Anybody need the bathroom? Like, nope, go ahead. So backing these girls up, and Out walks Bob and nothing but a towel. Oh yeah, check it out, ladies. That's the big Boboski. Yeah.
Oh no.
These girls couldn't get out of there really fast enough.
Oh, there's probably
Billy,
like Wile E. Coyote
Billy
in
and
the
I
wall,
are just a gog. Like it's one of the funniest things that I can remember. But both of us are like, "You motherfucker, what are you doing?"
Yeah, you're killing us, Johnson.
We're laughing so hard we can't. Oh, it was so good. It was
and
like,
you know, I don't care what other walk of life you're in, you just can't get stories like that other than being in wrestling. Like you really can't. Like one of my favorite stories is the lady that I seen. I won't bore you. Well, I think you were on the trip when we were in Regina, and the lady in the moo was drinking pancake syrup and eating butter couplets.
Oh yeah.
You know, like you can't make that up.
Like a good creative writer might, but reality is better than fiction.
Yeah,
like reality is truly better than fiction.
The best part of it was she dropped a piece of egg down her cleavage, and Pollock described it beautifully. She reaches down there, pulls a piece of scrambled egg out, eats it, and Pollock looks over at me. He goes, "Man, that must be like a third fucking armpit down there." It's just nasty.
Gotta smell great. Smell great. The week-old egg in it and all that kind of stuff.
Oh man, yeah. And then after they took the meal away, they made the mistake of leaving the butter couplets on the table. So she opened those and started eating them with her coffee spoon.
What the hell? Sorry, we're getting an emergency alert right now.
Uh-oh. I probably got my phone going off too. Oh, there we go.
Emergency alert.
What happened? What'd you do? You didn't get a vaccine, did you?
Government of Alberta is calling an emergency alert, but it didn't really say for what.
Yeah, don't get me started on those guys right now.
Government voting. You better vote.
Oh, I voted already, man. I voted on Saturday.
Bad boy.
Yeah, I said, "Hey, wife, let's walk to the voting station. It'll be nice." And we walked. Ended up round trip like the 7-kilometer walk to go vote. So we really wanted it, man.
Yeah, I'm signed up and I'm going. So
yeah,
it's time for a change. Unfortunately, it's not going to change much, but definitely.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, we could talk all day about this stuff, but like you say, it's chances are Trudeau's going to win again. He'll probably win another minority. From what I was reading, somebody else's thought, not mine, but Trudeau will win a minority. Him and Jagmeet Singh won't get along well, and probably in 2 years there will be some sort of election again. Yeah,
that sounds just about right.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. And like my favorite is to see people, split the vote. Like, well, yeah, that's how voting works. It's all going to be split, dumbass. But don't make people feel bad for voting for the party they want. Like I'll put it out there. I'm definitely not voting liberal nor conservative.
Right.
So you can take your choices of what's left. But
and I mean, all you can do, and this is, I was having dinner with a friend the other night, and their daughter, definitely not going to vote conservative. It was almost like because she was in Alberta, she'd feel bad that she wasn't going to vote conservative. Do you know what I mean? It was just like, hey, listen, all you can do is look at all those candidates, look at the one that aligns the closest to your values and what you want out of life, what you think this country should be, and cast your vote.
That's it.
But here's the other thing is, even though my candidate may not win, or, whatever, the election doesn't go the way I want it to, no matter what, I really wish success for the party that wins. And I think that's what's missing from the other voters, quite frankly, is also, like, if Trudeau wins, people are like, well, I hope Trudeau eats shit. I'm like, I hope he doesn't, because we're in more shit.
We don't want to eat shit with him.
Yeah, we need him to succeed. Like, as much as I think he's I honestly think I've got rocks that could handle a job better than him. But legit, I really do and truly hope that if him and the Liberals win, I do wish them success. I want our country to work. And I just, I wish people could just have a difference, have a conversation, agree to disagree if that's the case, and move on. But most importantly, people be open to changing your mind in the presence of new and relevant information.
Yes, learn,
right?
become smarter. Like that's the problem. Like people not willing to change their mindset. And it's like, look, if your party platform doesn't follow what your mindset is right now, why are you still voting that way? Like change your vote. Well, I don't want to split the vote. Yes, split the vote. Split it to the party that should win because their people are being convinced not to vote that way.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
like, I mean,
it's all going to be minorities. It doesn't matter that way.
Well, the thing is,
like minority governments, not minority.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. Like there's almost a point where, you know, if you got pretty much a split, you know, let's call it 5 parties and everybody splits 20% of the vote, they have to work together.
Legit.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's all I'm asking for is there was a time, and this is someone else told me this again. But there was a time when like John Turner and, you know, the Joe Clarks of the day would play golf together after Parliament. And that's when they hammered shit out. Do you think the politicians today are speaking to each other outside Parliament? I really don't.
They're too busy slinging mud at each other on media sites.
Exactly. And if they, heaven forbid, they got caught even sharing an idea, you know, their careers are over because people are so stupid and polarized.
Right. And like, meanwhile, you know, a little bit of influence from each side would create much better decisions.
Well, but who wants to live in an echo chamber? That's what I don't understand. Right. Like I know, I think I'm always right, but I also know that would be a statistical anomaly.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like
impossible, but yeah, I get it.
Yeah. 100%. Like it, you know, so as much as I think I'm right, I have to be willing to listen to your idea. Like it, and that's why I say only a fool doesn't listen. You don't have to agree, take what you don't use or whatever, and just walk away from it, but just listen.
But when you are disproven, accept it.
Yes.
When you are wrong,
don't stay married to a wrong idea.
Accept it. Like, that's the problem with people in science. Is it's like, hey, here's the science that proves this. Well, I'll wait till the science says something else. No, science, which is done until it's right. That's how science works, right? This proves X, right? Well, I believe Y. Well, belief is not correct.
Yeah. Well,
belief is belief.
Here's one of the things I've come up, one of my epiphanies I've had lately. It's not super deep, but it's, you know, one of those. I came to the realization a little while ago that there would be a lot of people on the liberal side that would tell me I'm a fool for having faith in a higher power, right? That I should believe in the science. Okay. I'm not going to argue with you. That's your take. Cool story, bro. Tell it again. Those same people today are telling me when it comes to, say, sex and gender, don't believe the science. Well, you can't have it both ways, man.
Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
You know, and believe me, I believe in the science. Like I trust the science. I will never argue that there wasn't a Big Bang. We just might argue what caused it. Right. Like it's at the same time, really and truly, I won't even argue that point. It's non-debatable to me. Right. It's because you're not going to change my mind. You weren't there. We recreated in a lab. Oh, and that's the same as you're telling me that the whole universe was the size of a pinhead and just exploded 13.8 million years ago to what I see today. Get the fuck out of here. You can recreate that in a lab.
Right.
I'm not saying they're wrong. I'm just saying, don't tell me you can recreate that in a lab.
You're not God or whatever.
Well, you're not even the best scientist in the league. If you could really and truly do that, do it. You know,
and that's exactly it.
We got a particle collider. Get the fuck out of here. Yeah. Until you make a parallel universe, I don't want to hear it.
Right. Although apparently we're close to slipping. They're talking Einstein-Rosen bridges now.
Well, I did hear, oh man, I heard something. Can a black hole exist within a black hole? And that made my ears bleed a little bit. And then another guy was talking about the infinite number of universes. And within those infinite number of universes are another infinite number of universes. So within those infinite number of universes, there has to be a parallel universe where you and I are doing the exact same thing right now.
Probably.
And he just said by the law of averages, with that many universes, there's a probability.
Oh, there'd be a high number. Yeah.
You know, but it's just like, how do you even sit around thinking about that shit?
Some people are paid for that job.
Yeah. I'm not that deep of a thinker. I hear it and I'm just like, oh man, I think I need a nap.
Well, much like thinking about a wrestling program, like much like watching WWE, I think every time I'm like, oh, I think I'll take some in. Then I watch it and it just really hurts my head. And I figured out why. Well, I figured out why.
It's the cuts. You told me about the cuts. And ever since you told me about all the cuts, I can't take it anymore.
Yeah, you notice it now, right?
Every time they're about to hit a move, they cut.
Oh my God. So my friend David was over the other day, and we were just watching various different promo packages. We watched an AEW one, we watched an MLW one, we watched an Impact one, and then we watched a WWE one. And
Right.
we were counting the number of cuts made within like 30 seconds kind of thing.
Okay.
And like the first three, the averages were like 8, 12, and 14, something like that.
Right.
WWE had like 36 cuts in under 30 seconds, where it was like cut, 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 cut,
subliminal
cut,
messaging.
cut. And it was like, Jesus, what are we following here?
Yeah. It's seizure inducing.
I think so. Like, I legit think so.
At the same time, and not to just try and pump WWE's tires, but at the same time, when you watch the production, like when you're watching Monday Night Raw, you're watching SmackDown, and as much as I like the wrestling on AEW, because I like the creative freedom the guys have versus some of the wrestling I see on 100%. WWE, the WWE's production, man, nobody's even close. Like the way their cameras work, the way their shit's lit, the graphics.
I will argue they miss more shots than they get.
I'm not debating that. Like I'm not debating. Like you say, the cuts ruin a lot of stuff. But when you look at just the overall, like I say, the lighting, the graphics.
I don't get me wrong. They have all the best equipment.
Yeah.
But here's what I challenge you to watch next time from a wrestler perspective. Watch how many times they miss the big move.
Oh no, right? You're preaching to the choir.
Or the sell or whatever. They're so busy trying to cut to the next thing.
Or they're advertising half the screen's a Snicker bar. And they're talking about the pay-per-view. I mean,
but they're so busy cutting that they're missing what the guys are attempting to get over in the ring.
100%.
And it absolutely takes away from the production. I don't think it benefits it at all.
But
I think the story is lost.
Here's where you've missed something. You've made the mistake of thinking that what's on television in the ring is what they're trying to get over.
Silly me for... the onus on
and
the
that's
product,
and I always say that, like, I get so mad when I'm watching Devine versus Durango and they're talking about Cena and Reigns at the next pay-per-view, because even though you and I are working at the next pay-per-view, it literally means whatever we're doing right now is not important. That to me is how they sell their whole program.
I agree, and that's part of the problem for me. Is it's like you're complaining that you can't create any stars, but you don't treat anybody like a star. You bury your up and coming guys when they come up from NXT. So what where they do what's
again,
the goal?
Where they
what
make
are
the
we
people look like stars is in the entrances, and that's what I'm talking about, their production value. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
But again, like you say, there's a reason, and I don't want to just kick the piss out of the WWE, because for a lot of people it's the pinnacle. No matter what, that's the place they want to go, and I totally respect that. But there's kind of a reason that the Adam Coles and the Bryan Danielson and these guys are starting to leave, and I don't think it's that they have a poor relationship with the company. I think that there's a creative freedom that isn't allotted there.
Absolutely correct. And the handcuffing and the words you're not allowed to say, and the list of moves you're not allowed to do, or stuff like that. Like,
or the one thing I'll say negative is Michael Cole burying people. I think that fucker gets excessive. Like, I think he's a dick about it.
Yeah, it's too much. He's who
he is, and I'm who I am. I appreciate that, but yeah, I think he's gone too far burying people sometimes, and that's probably my biggest issue with their shows.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Like, to me, like, there's a lot of what's the word you want to use? Like, because again, you're not trying to say it negative. It's the pinnacle. Like, but there's a lot of missed opportunities.
Yeah, and
a lot of inside humor burials going on, like inside joke burial, ha ha ha, at that guy's expense. Well, now you've just made the fans think he's a loser because you're poking fun at him.
And a character can only be what you present him as.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So if you're if you bring a guy up from NXT, which we've seen time and time and time again, is, they bring a guy up from NXT who was the NXT champion, and then, they send him on a huge run, for 4 weeks. He main events the next pay-per-view. He wins the Intercontinental title, drops it 2 weeks later. And 3 weeks after that, he's off the next pay-per-view and, kind of looking for the next thing to do. It's shocking to me how that happens. And I don't understand. Like, we can look and say like, oh, it's because they use writers and not bookers and all these things. But it's just like, but how does it happen so many times?
Well, and that's, it comes down to the final man on top of the podium or on top of the pinnacle of the thing who makes the final decision there to say, and, fuck what worked. We're going to do what I want to do.
Yeah.
And like, that's the legitimacy of it is like, when you're in that kind of system, there is no way to succeed without him making you the succeedor.
I think Vince McMahon, and this may be a good or bad thing to say, like maybe a compliment and it may be, kind of a chirp, but I think he's what I'd consider to be the most pragmatic booker of all time. Like, he books literally for today. How can I pop a rating today? Forget what I need in 6 months. I need a rating to pop right here, right now. Well, what do I got to do? That's literally, to me, one of the biggest problems with the way that show runs.
Yeah. Like, I see it as that guy probably should have retired 10, 15 years ago and handed the company over to his kids for their management.
Well, when you look at what NXT was doing, when nobody was meddling,
those takeover pay-per-views, the first like 6 to 8 of them were just spectacular.
Yeah.
Spectacular shows.
Off the charts. The work rate is off the
and that's it. It's great wrestling. It's great sports entertainment. It's great everything.
Yeah.
With good production value.
For sure.
And not too many cuts.
Yeah.
And then it's, butched up after a point because it's like, oh, let's get our fingers in there. And now let's fire everybody who's good. And, let's turn our most over guy into Demolition Splash number 4. We're just going to give him Demolition's old gear.
Yeah.
Like,
or the one thing I want to laugh about, and I hope I don't offend anyone again, but how do you forget somebody's contract's about to expire? Like, how does that just happen?
Well, and that's guys rushed up through the system.
Right.
So here we're going to give you this big ass push. Oh yeah, let's take him up. And then they bury him on the push and they blah. Yeah. But then they forget in their rush.
And that athlete knows when that contract's up.
Dot the I's and cross the T's. And good on Malachi Black there for being the smart businessman and really capitalizing. Like, good on him.
And maybe, maybe I'm full of shit or misguided, but I'm a big Malachi dick rider. Like, that guy is a huge mark for him.
Super top guy coming. Like, let me tell you, his run's going to be awesome and long. He is the AEW Undertaker. I'm calling that now. 5 years from now, people will be marking out for his entrance where the smoke and the lightning and the blah.
Yeah.
The same way you and I did for Taker coming to the ring for every Mania that I can think of.
Oh God, it just got too long.
But you see what I'm saying.
Well, there's a mystique there, right? And that's what he brings. He's something different. And there's always something cool about that dark, the dark, suspicious, lost soul, the Crow type shit.
Oh yeah, of course.
Right.
Like those characters are always one of the most over. Look at Sting and his Crow / Joker.
Well, when he
/
and one of the things I'd heard is that gimmick was so perfect for him, because one of the things I heard is he signed a contract that was basically for X number of dates. It was over a certain amount of years, but there was X number of dates on the contract, and he front ended the contract and worked all the dates at the beginning. So he's still under contract, but he didn't have to wrestle. So they just have him show up and stand in the rafters.
That, like, brilliance.
Yeah.
Brilliance. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Good business.
100%. Getting paid to show up, put on his face paint, look mysterious, drop down once in a while. Yeah. Like, what a dynamite. And he got so much out of so little. Right. Like, I don't care whether people like Sting or not. To me, it's just like, man, if you can get that much out of that, people should be bowing down.
One of the things I like do with every class, and I like since 2006, I ask everyone, I'm like, okay, which one of you thinks it's cool to and would wear a hood? Which one of you thinks it's cool to and would wear makeup? right? Rosemary in Impact was Courtney Rush before it was like, hey, like makeup, like dude, now Rosemary is an amazing character. You know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff. So like Rey Mysterio and his hood, Sting and his mask that you sell the white one with the thing on it. Those are some of the biggest pieces of marketing apparel that have ever graced the business that are to this day still making money.
How many of them Sting Halloween masks do you think WCW sold?
So many. And like, this is what I'm saying. Like people underestimate the value of a good character anymore. And it's like, look at, are you familiar with Ring of Honor?
No.
I highly recommend go check out a guy who was trained at the House of Truth in Detroit named Danhausen.
Heard the name.
Oh my God.
Yeah, heard the name.
Kids, it's things not, and this isn't about he's not a, Sting was a jacked up, him and the Ultimate Warrior.
Oh man, yeah.
We're twins at a point, right?
All of the Mexican supplements.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's Danhausen isn't that, but face paint, and he's like stolen lines from Joker. Like you remember in the first Batman, Joker brand pharmaceuticals.
Right.
Love that Joker. Well, it's love that Danhausen.
Right.
Because what's old is new again.
100%.
Right. And it's so over.
Yeah.
You know, and he's very nice, very evil. He's Danhausen. Like it's great.
I love it.
It's awesome.
A classy evil guy.
It's so good.
Drinks his tea with his pinky up, but he'll still cut your head off.
And that's the guy who I see next coming out of Ring of Honor, because
character development is, right? That's incredible.
The character is over.
Same with Darby Allin. I mean, at first I wasn't quite sure, but holy whistling, do I like, what that I like what he does, period. Like
I am into the kid now. Yeah. I'm totally bought into the gimmick. Sting has helped get him over. Now, granted, I liked him before Sting. Right. But the fact that they put him with Sting to give him the push and give him like everything was great.
He got some rub, right?
And so did you watch him and Punk?
Yes.
So let's talk about that for a second. I believe the return of CM Punk is a turning point for the business.
I wouldn't argue with that, man.
Much like Hulk Hogan and WrestleMania 1, I believe we're about to see the next boom period of professional wrestling. I say professional wrestling with an exclamation point, because that whole Forbidden Door crossover between, Ring of Honor. Well, I don't know if Ring of Honor is in on it, but Impact and AEW and probably NWA. Because
are the Briscoes still with Ring of Honor?
Yeah.
Then hopefully they can be on it, because those guys are studs too, man.
Well, and this is what I'm saying.
Right. Yeah.
For all of that intermixing to start going on, we're going to see some massive houses at crowds.
Yeah.
Right. Massive houses and crowds.
Right.
Jeez. Right. Like the house shows have been dwindling for the WWE. I see AEW and all of these other promotions packing the houses with available talent. You know what I mean?
Now, do you think, and I mean, I think you're right with Pump coming back, Bryan Danielson coming back, Adam Cole coming over. They've got a big show there. I mean, the spectacle at AEW.
It's the NWO.
Yeah. Now, do you think that can last? Do you think that they can sustain that?
Well, no, because there isn't an available talent pool to keep that up. But what I see happening is you've got 3 more pieces of the puzzle to come together.
Right.
Bray Wyatt's going to show up. Right.
Okay. Yeah.
So he's got to lead the Dark Order in the absence, and he'll be, Undertaker number 2 there. Hopefully I'm hoping he does the Swamp Daddy gimmick.
I can't fucking believe they released that guy. The most creative guy on the roster. Like,
so
if that guy can't keep his job, how could anyone feel secure?
And so,
right.
They gave his gimmick to somebody else and they let him go.
Literally poached his gimmick and fired him.
And so Bray Wyatt's going to show up, but then the last 2 bits of the puzzle that have to happen is Kevin Owens and El Generico. Their contracts are going to come up and they'll come over.
Right.
And when that happens, you have the whole pro wrestling guerrilla crew.
I was just going to say there's together. PWG.
And when that happens, you're going to have essentially Mount Rushmore, Kevin, Generico, and probably a couple others thrown in with them.
Yeah.
Versus the Elite, versus the this, versus the that. And the faction war will be massive, but at the same time, that'll burn out. Like they're going to do, the Pinnacle versus this group eventually, and then they're going to do, the Inner Circle versus that group, and then like.
Yeah. But if you can get that work out the deals with New Japan's and Impact and ROH and bring that fresh talent in, right?
That's the secret to me. Is it's like when you've got New Japan stars popping up on pay-per-view like out of nowhere, like, oh wow, true wrestling fans are dying for that kind of stuff.
Sure, man.
And like and this is, you said it earlier, the production is great, but it's not wrestling anymore.
Yeah.
Now you're going to see hopefully a couple of million actual wrestling fans pop back up again because they haven't been able to get their fix because there hasn't been actual wrestling.
Well, and I've always held on, I've always, kind of told our friends there that, just hang in there. Eventually they'll start selling wrestling. Like just hang in, because it's not what they were selling for long, and I always find it funny, be careful when they have their promos. It's like, be careful letting your kids watch this shit. It's not for children under 14, but everything else is geared to selling toys. Right. I always found that the irony is not lost on Duke Durango on that one.
Yeah. And then, like the I want to call it placating of the masses with the least amount of the thing that they tuned in to see.
Yeah.
It's got to end for them. It's got to, if they want to stay competitive, because it's not going to be a challenge anymore for another company to pass them when they've got this and they've got a list of 20 absolute stud stars, not including the 50 young roster guys who are studs
starving.
They're just like, yeah, give me that spot. I'll take it. Like
that. It's the roster AEW has right now is so fucking hungry,
bro.
Right?
Bro,
those kids are starving over there,
bro. And I love to see that fire.
Oh yeah,
so much passion in every match. Whereas, the guys who are contracted elsewhere and are just going through the motions so that they can get to whatever promo segment comes up, and that those two things are it's slow right now, but eventually that gap is just going to keep widening as the ratings.
You know what, man? I don't disagree. I think I'm going back and definitely you can call bullshit on what I'm about to say. I'm going to go back to the, WCW NWO thing for the, for X number of weeks, they took over and beat WWE. But yeah, it took longer than people probably thought it did, but WWE found their ground and, quickly sorted it out.
And somebody else already made that argument and I heard it, and somebody else disproved it. And I will use the same disproving to Iggy you with it.
Right.
WWE was able to rebound because they had Steve Austin, The Rock, Bret Hart, and a list of talent that were already
DX was
top tier stars.
Yeah.
Right now, WWE doesn't have a.
It took them 2 years to build those guys. It took them, a couple of years to build The Rock. It took them a little while to build the Austins up, and that's when they were losing and the ratings weren't. And those guys hit their strides in the way they went.
That's what I'm saying is do you see any young talent there being a new Steve Austin or Rock?
Not necessarily, but the Steve Austin wasn't there for much more than a couple of years before he became Steve Austin. So I believe, to your point, Danhausen, there's a guy, they signed him, let him do his gimmick. All of a sudden, more eyes are drawn, right? So what's going to happen is, I don't care what anyone says, the Performance Center is nothing more than a massive fucking tax write-off. When you look at the amount of talent that they've actually produced on their own, handpicked, brought there, signed, and actually made stars out of, the numbers minuscule at best. It's a disgusting number. So when you look at all the real big stars, they're guys that have worked on indies and been around the world for a decade.
Yeah.
And so I believe the next crop of guys like that is just about to come up. you know what I mean? The Danhausens and
Yeah.
I think they'll just do another indie talent raid, throw those guys in a performance center for 6 months, NXT up to the main roster in a year.
They just said that they're no longer looking for indie talent.
Right.
They're not hiring. WWE is not hiring any more indie talent for the foreseeable future. They're going out to football and bodybuilding and
that's going to blow up in their face because they're going to sign those guys to big money contracts, and they're good athletes. They can do it, but they don't care about wrestling. When it comes to the grind, they won't want to do it.
And that's the staying power of the football player. Usually, like 1 in 10 kind of thing. In my experience,
and you got to consider, like, if you're taking a former NFL football player, if that guy's had any length of a career in the NFL, his body's already destroyed anyways. What time can you really get out of that guy?
Right. Very true.
Like, they're beat to shit.
Very true. But even the young guys aren't going to come in for cheap because they've already had NFL money.
For sure.
So they're definitely not taking the 75 that they're paying at NXT or whatever it is.
No, the running cost is going to go way up.
Yeah.
Right? And I believe the return on investment is still going to go way down. Like, they're going to be looking for the next AJs. They say it now, right? The same when they say, we're not hiring anybody that's less than 6'2" and 270 pounds. And then they quickly realize, like, yeah, you got a bunch of monsters, but you need some workers. And all of a sudden you see a bunch of 220, 230 pound guys hitting the main roster again.
Yeah, I hear you. It's always the same, but I'm saying, like, right now, the timing for them is awful.
Yeah.
Because their top guys are great. Don't get me wrong.
But there's going to be a lot of eyes on there. Well, it'll come down to, like you say, I watch wrestling. They have this thing that we watch wrestling for the male soap opera aspect of it, that we're watching, for the Mark Henry dating, what's her name there?
Yeah, totally. That's exactly why I
tuned exactly. And they think, okay, that's what Jordan wants to see on wrestling. It's like, are you crazy? I watch wrestling because it's called wrestling. I want to see two guys kick the shit out of each other, simulated.
Yeah.
That's what I'm tuning in for. And that's what AEW is giving their fans right now.
Tell me a story. And that, like, some of the best stories I've seen in recent memory have been told. This is my favorite. Okay, so you watched the Punk Darby Allin match.
Yes.
Have you seen the Bret Hart 1, 2, 3 Kid match? That is literally was taken from.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I posted that. I love. Now, many complain, like, he's stealing spots, but I mean, like, homage.
I was just gonna say, man, there's a difference between homage and stealing, and that's. Yeah.
And to me, Punk is totally homage to Bret on that.
Yeah. Here's the thing, man. When the average internet wrestling fan, I'm not going to call them marks, but when the average internet wrestling fan has something to say about my opinion, I literally, like, kid, you have no idea the respect that goes into what we do. Like, a guy like Punk is, he's a wrestling aficionado. He's a historian of the business, and he's somebody that deserves nothing but respect. Like,
100%.
Love him or hate him. He's polarizing, but love him or hate him, you can't deny his place and what he's done in the business. And when you look at him, if you just seen him walking down the street, you would never assume that guy's one of the greatest professional wrestlers on the planet.
Legit.
Right. And that speaks to itself. Right. You see Hulk Hogan. Oh shit. That guy's definitely a professional wrestler.
Yeah.
You see Punk and you think that guy works at a factory packing boxes, and he goes out there and tears the house down.
Yeah, legit. And that's testament to his workability and his historian ability is like to take that match and update it and make it a modern thing. And, like, it was fucking beautiful. I loved it. I thought
that
it was
match
fabulous.
with Darby was fantastic, man.
Yeah,
it was
I loved
so
it.
Good.
I thought
I heard some people say, it took him a couple minutes to knock the ring rust off, blah, blah, blah. Again, not to sound too rough, but shut the fuck up. He looked fantastic from the second the first note of the song hit. He did everything perfect. And Darby Allin was there for everything. It was so tight. It was such a good match.
I huge popped for the Undertaker sit up on the coffin drop. That was huge pop for me. Like, yes, thank you, for the love of God.
That move to me, Darby Allin, is like, you crazy bastard. You're just launching yourself backwards with, like, straight up reckless abandon.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely no care for my own safety whatsoever.
Yeah, I will have whiplash
and hopefully
anytime.
Yeah, some for my opponent.
Yeah, he's insane, man.
He is, but bless it.
Yeah, and that to me is what they're doing right, and it's what WCW, quite frankly, did right when they started to beat WWE. Is they had the really cool NWO angle that nobody here had ever seen before, and then they had a roster full of cruiserweights that could tear the house down every single night. So they didn't have just that one thing where WWE, like you say, we want the football players, we want the bodybuilders, we want the circus don't just travel with elephants. People like monkeys too,
acrobats and dancing bears. And
yeah, there's
all of it.
That's what's cool about wrestling. There should be something for everybody.
Legit. And that's I believe it so as well. You know, but I also believe that there comes a time, and this is, I believe it, where the business is now coming back up. Like that's
it's an
nature
cycle.
of the nature. Yeah. And that's with punk and all of that. I think it's coming back up. So I think you, myself, guys like us who enjoy the grapple are really going to get spoiled over this next couple of years because there are just so many great things about to come about that
there's some dream matches coming. Like if they can really do some of this talent share, man. Gee, like, because I'm loving Moxley in Japan. Like I'm loving Moxley in Japan. His style is perfect for Japan.
Legit. And like there's just so much opportunity there now that with the minds that they have, and this is speaking only of Jericho and Don Callis,
right?
Not knowing anybody else. Like I know Kenny Omega,
right?
I know lots of guys on the roster that I worked with, Daniels, Kazarian, like lots of guys, but just speaking about Jericho and Don Callis, you have two guys there who, if they're in the ear of the office and the bookers, which obviously they are,
Callis is, that's for damn sure.
They are, right?
Yeah, I think Jericho is the office. No, like, am I wrong?
And things are going to go well.
Yeah.
Right. Because they have that old school knowledge blended with a new school mentality that creates moments.
And I think they'll listen to the talent. I think that's most important. Like, again, you were probably around for more than anybody else while I was booking in PWA and Stampede.
Yeah.
And would you agree or disagree that if you came to me with an idea and it was good, we scrapped whatever I had going and went with what you had?
100%. Yeah.
You know what I mean? And to me, that's what's probably cool about AEW is the talent. When the talent have their, when you're begging writers to write shit for you, you know what I mean? Yeah, you're going to be happy that you got your point across. But when you go to the office and they're like, hey, Devine, this is what I want you to do tonight. And you're like, hey, Jordy, what about this? And I'm like, oh, that's way better. Okay, man, you're going to own that shit and work it so much better.
So much better. And that's what you're seeing.
Just give the people ownership.
That's what you're seeing for the most part. And that's why like promo segments and stuff are so much, there's so much investment and so much passion that goes into their promo segments. Like the building for me of Cowboy, Adam,
Page.
Adam Page. Jesus. There's 10 cages and rages.
Yeah.
I'm like, so Adam Page's build to me has been brilliance.
Yeah.
Brilliance. Like people will complain that he never got put over for the title over Kenny yet. Wasn't the time, at least not in my opinion anyway. And like what they've done to bring him up as the everyman, he is the next Steve Austin.
Right.
Like
the thing is, the fans always think they know what they want. And the fans want instant gratification. And I always say, like, if the fans were going to pop for him to win the title now, if we can feasibly and psychologically draw it out for a year, what's the reaction going to be then?
Yeah. And
right?
that's
like,
that's why you hear people complaining about the book, but they don't understand that long-term goal. They don't understand the long game. They can't grasp that. They're so used to getting, we see each other on Monday to have pay-per-view match on next Sunday because that's the way booking is done now. You spilled a coffee on me. We must battle.
Yeah. You spilled coffee on me. Cage match,
Right.
Like, I remember Davey actually telling us, Davey told us that he was going to be working Shawn Michaels at that one night only pay-per-view for the European title a year before it happened. They used to book like that. Right? I don't know if they still do, but they used to book like that.
Right. But not anymore for sure.
Yeah. The finish definitely changed, but I knew, but I knew that.
Not surprising. Not surprising.
Yeah, but yeah, I knew that match was going to happen a year before it actually did. So they were long-term booking then, but it's just stuff gets scrapped so fast now you can't even keep up.
Well, in that one place, but now we're seeing it elsewhere where the long game is truly coming back to play.
And again, Hangman Page is the prime example of that.
And he'll be the perfect, he'll be the perfect beer swilling guy to connect with the everyman that has been lacking in the business. Like Kevin
Owens, incredible. Like his promo timing and his vignette timing is fantastic.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. I believe Kevin Owens could have been. They gave him the stunner. Yeah. Kevin Owens could have been Austin 2.0. But they just continuously drop the ball and not putting him over.
And I'm telling you right now, you know what it is? He doesn't have six pack.
Yeah, like that matters.
Yeah. Well, and that's, I know people can you tell me all you want. I'm telling you right now, that's what it is.
Yeah. I'm right there with you.
Yeah.
But it cost them Steve Austin 2.0.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not thinking long term.
Well, I remember loving Kevin Steen, because I literally thought he worked exactly like me. He was a bigger guy, so to me it looked a little more impressive, but he literally worked exactly the same way I did, as far as how he ran his mouth, how he worked his matches.
Yep. I would absolutely see that parallel.
Yeah, I'm a fairly big Kevin Owens mark, having said that, right?
Nope,
why do you like him so much? Because he reminds me of myself.
No, but like as a guy who's seen both of you work and whatnot, 100%.
Yeah, I see. And you know who else for that matter? Andy Lewis is the same. I love that guy's. He reminds me of Kevin Owens. The way he works is just dynamite. Like, I don't know how much of his work you've seen, but
only a little.
He's fantastic.
Of course,
he's one of those guys. Like he doesn't have to win a match. Like, he's one of those guys that can lose match after match 100%. After match, and his stock doesn't drop. Like, he's just
100%.
Yeah. So let's go back to the wrestling school. Sure. So you've got your first class in session right now?
Yeah. Yeah. So I have 8 students on the run right now. Essentially 7 wrestlers and 1 referee production guy. And 3 months, essentially I'm running it similar to Lance's in so much as 3 months, you should be out the door wrestling matches, but you're not cut off for 6 months, and you're always welcome back forever to roll and blah, blah, blah. Right. But ultimately my goal is, if it's a brand new student, 3 months, you should be prepared and able to have a match. No problem. If it's somebody who's already pre-trained, then that's, within 4 to 6 weeks, I've helped change their style up a bit and give them a bit of polish.
Put a little lipstick on that pig.
You got it. Right? Polish that turd all day, baby.
Yeah.
Right. But, like, everybody's kind of got different schedules and whatnot. So,
when do you train?
Well, typically we are 4 days a week, or 3 is our minimum. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Right now we are 2 to 5.
Okay.
Right? Based on people's work schedules, but I'd like to add an extra hour. I would have had an extra hour in there. But any new students, it's usually a 4-hour block, 1 to 5 p.m. And then 12 to 4 on Sundays is our part-timers day / drop-in day / whatever.
Okay. So that's my day right there.
Yeah. Right. So come down, roll around, grapple a bit, the great part about where I'm at is I'm working in conjunction with a mixed martial arts school, Esteem Mixed Martial Arts, and Havoc JKD, it's called.
And what's the address there?
It is 2807 107th Ave Southeast, Unit 4. So it's obviously a what do you call it? A warehouse style building.
Right.
But it's Southeast, kind of like a Gold's Gym at 52nd / is it 52nd? Douglasdale. Douglasdale, just off of. The Douglasdale exit out.
Yeah, Douglasdale and Deerfoot there.
Yeah, and Deerfoot.
On, what was that? 114th Avenue.
That's it, Southeast. Yeah. And so the Sunday roll arounds and stuff, like, because it's a little differently attended, we do things a little different, but I also try to keep Sundays more dungeon style than the rest of the days.
Right.
I.e., I keep Sundays for striking and stuff like that. But, the fun days. Yeah. Right. Not every Sunday,
Yeah.
They're surprise ones. We never tell you when they're coming.
Right.
But guess what? Today's drop day. Yay.
Yeah, shirts off, boys.
Right? Shit.
Yeah. Tarps off, fellas.
But that's like Sundays are fun for exactly that reason. Is
Right.
It's a little bit more adventure and play and blah.
Okay.
You know,
Breaks things
Mondays. Yeah, the Monday through Thursday stuff, we're really drilling a lot of basics, holds, chain, you know, moving from thing to thing,
Right.
doing things like having good transitions and learning how to change gears and learning how to speed up, slow down, do all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
And then within the, like, for your purposes, if you're going to drop in, about the beginning of October, we'll have some guys who will really be able to have some fun.
Right.
Because there's a couple of guys who are really good and we'll be able to, be able to play. And I mean, I'm not, trying to teach crazy high spots, but I can. Like I can 450 in shooting.
Oh, I know.
The best of them. But what we're trying to do there is really have fun with a lot of different ways to take on the basics and stuff like that.
Right.
A lot of fun catch wrestling stuff. Like that's one of the things. Jay Cooper is the guy who owns Steam and Havoc JKD.
Okay.
We do catch wrestling on Wednesday nights from 7 to 8 p.m.
Oh, really?
So high recommend on that one. Have some fun with that. There is jiu-jitsu, there is Muay Thai, there's some Jeet Kune Do, there's some karate for kids. So there's a lot to
There's everything
offer.
going on. Wow, what a facility.
Yeah, and that's open to all of the students of the Canadian Strong Style School as well. So guys who want to add a little extra flavor to what they're doing can come and learn some.
Which I'd highly recommend they do. Like if you have that opportunity, you have to.
Well, it's like to be able to do both. Like, why wouldn't you if it's offered to you? Absolutely.
Yeah, 100%.
Well,
and it's never a bad thing to be able to defend yourself.
Well, and that like I explained it to somebody as well as to the class, but they asked, in that, what's the difference in your school and somebody else's school? One sentence thing. When you think in terms of what is the job of a professional wrestler, it's different at every school you go to. Okay. Right. Every school is going to tell you the job of a professional wrestler is different for whatever reason. My school, the job of a professional wrestler is the suspension of disbelief. My job is to make those people who come through the door who already know this is fake believe. If for 7 to 10 minutes of my match, that was real, or at least part of it was, they weren't faking. They did something that convinced me that this was real. And that's not really punching somebody in the face or anything like that. That's using good psychology and good use of holds, right? And so an ounce of realism is worth a pound of showmanship. Okay. 100%. You can have 800 million pounds of showmanship, but with 80 pounds of realism, I can have a better match than you.
Right.
And realism never goes out of style. And the only way to convince people that you are real is to be real. Know how to put on holds.
Yeah.
Know how to defend yourself. Then you can all day convince people that you know what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I've always said is you don't have to be a straight out shooter, a bone breaker to become a good pro wrestler. But I would definitely say that it helps you impart the aspect of the struggle to have been in an actual struggle.
Absolutely.
Yep. So if you've never, buddy,
that gonna wrap it.
How can people get a hold of you at the school?
So website is www.canadianstrongstyle.com. You can find us on Facebook, Canadian Strong Style Wrestling Academy, or Instagram or Twitter and whatnot at Canadian Silver Badger.
All right, brother. On that note, thanks again, buddy. I'm really glad to have you on again.
You too, anytime, man. It's always my favorite talking.
Best of luck with school, and I will be in touch. And myself and Crazy Dean will be making an appearance down there very soon.
Yeah, man. You're always welcome.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you
look forward to it. Take care.
Thanks.
Duke, you suck.
You shut your mouth.